Hey everyone, my name is Matt Travis. I live here in Bay City. I'm very proud of that fact. I work for the Midland Center for the Arts, where I run the Midland Symphony Orchestra and I conduct the choirs as a part of our community choir program. But I'm certainly a very proud supporter of the Bay City Players. I'm very grateful for the many shows that I did at the Players. I mean, so many wonderful mentors, Leeds Bird, Joanne Barry, too many to mention, but I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to do so many shows at the Players. Jeannie Gilbert, Pam Barnes, so many others come to mind as well. So thank you for asking me to be a part of the Bay City Players Lemonade Stand. What a cool idea, and I'm happy to dig into some of the questions that we're checking out today. So the first question is how to approach auditions. How do you find them? A great place is social media. If we're talking about the community theater level, we have the wonderful Great Lakes Bay Regional Theater Network, which is a very vibrant social media page on Facebook, so be sure to check that one out. If you're looking at the professional level, there's a magazine called Backstage that posts a lot of those too. But really kind of having a strong network of folks to rely on. You have friends auditioning, say, hey, I'm going in for this. You want to come with me? So that certainly helps a lot as well. What happens in an audition for musicals? So if we're talking at the Center for the Arts, and similar format for the Players or for Pit and Balcony, usually you're asked to come in with a piece that a piece that's prepared. Typically we're looking for 60 seconds of music that often coincides with 32 bars. If you don't have a perfect cut, that's kind of okay, we figure it out. But make sure that you have music that's well marked, that our wonderful pianists can read and can prepare for that. So typically you have to sing something. Usually if it's a musical, you learn a dance combo of sorts. And then more often than not, there'll be some type of callback where you'll be asked to do some reading. We may give you some stuff to prepare between the audition and the callback. It might be a short selection of music from the show, and it might be maybe a short monologue or a scene from the show. Those are called sides that we would ask you to prepare. What happens at an audition for a straight show? Really kind of the same sort of process. There's usually a lot more cold reading. We're kind of looking to get chemistry. How do you read with this person? How do you read with that person? Is this a good fit? How do you interact with one another on the stage? And that's certainly true of musicals too. How to prepare for callbacks? I think, so my background is primarily as a classical musician, a choral musician. I'm fortunate enough to have studied and gone to graduate school and gotten a doctorate in choral conducting. And I think this is where your musicianship chops really help. So be sure to practice sight reading. Be sure to practice your musical literacy. Be sure to work on that. If you need resources, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Because the reality is, oftentimes you may audition on a Monday or Tuesday night and callbacks are Wednesday or Thursday. So you may only have 24 hours or so to prepare for this. So the better musician you can be, the more you can think on your feet, the better that you can prepare in a quick turnaround. All of those things are certainly to your advantage in a situation like that. Do you try to present a new face of yourself? I think in the audition room, remaining true to who you are is certainly true when you're kind of in the room. Now, when you're in the kind of actual performance or you're reading or you're actually auditioning, making sure that you're truly embodying whatever character you are. And that's what might be tricky in a callback situation where you might be asked to read for one part that's one kind of type, and then you might be asked to read for another, which is completely different. Maybe in one cut you're reading for the hero, and then in one cut you're reading for the villain. So, yet another reason to kind of think on your feet and always be prepared, always be ready to go. So touring shows. So this is kind of in regards to my work at the Midland Center for the Arts. Who pays the costs for the touring show? And that's a very good question. So in short, typically the costs are paid for by the producers. So the producers pay the actors' salaries, the producers pay the tech, the producers pay the cost to build the sets, build the costumes, the cost to operate the show, the cost of travel. Okay, and so then the producers usually work through an agency that essentially books a tour, and they sell that tour to entities like the Midland Center for the Arts. So there's different types of shows. The larger scale titles like a Hamilton or a Dear Evan Hansen will typically go for a couple weeks, 2-week minimum stays, and that's usually dictated by Equity, the Actors Union. Some shows will do 1 week, and some shows will do single performances or split weeks, which means they might be in Grand Rapids Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they might be in Midland Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But more often than not on the road, the performers are doing 8 performances a week. And some types of tours that could mean 8 performances a week in 5 or 6 different cities. In some that might mean 1 city for 2 or 3 weeks or more. And in some cases, it might mean one city a week, something like that. How do you adjust from one theater to another overnight? Yeah, so these are actually great questions, to talk to a lot of the performers about. I think, enjoying the opportunity to check out a city, with some of the Equity tours. For example, when my sister was out, typically you would travel on a Monday and then you would have Tuesday off. So Tuesday might be your opportunity to get to see the city. But that means that you still have 8 shows that week. So essentially from Wednesday through Sunday, you have 8 performances. So it might mean that you do 2 shows on Wednesday, maybe 1 on Thursday, 1 on Friday, and then maybe 2 on Saturday and 1 on Sunday. So it really it doesn't mean you get a performance off. It means that you get a day off, but essentially you have to cram 6 days worth of work into a much shorter time frame. What general education do you think is needed? This is a complicated question. For me, myself, I kind of always was hungry to learn. I really kind of thrived in the collegiate atmosphere, which is why I was fortunate enough to go to Michigan and study voice, and then go to Penn State and get a master's degree in choral conducting, which is kind of my true passion in many ways. And then the doctoral degree in conducting at the University of Connecticut, where I had the pleasure of working with Lin-Manuel Miranda as my dissertation was on Hamilton. Some people thrive in that atmosphere, some people don't. And I think if you don't, that's perfectly okay. We live in a society where college is deemed as kind of the norm. That's kind of what society tells us that we have to do. But if that's not the case for you, there are vibrant and very other realistic possibilities to engage musically and engage professionally in other ways. So kind of remaining true to whatever path you think works for you. That could mean a bachelor's degree, that could mean an associate's degree, that could mean trade school, that could mean whatever. But ultimately, I think what the cool thing about music is, and musical theater, is that you can right size it based on whatever kind of matches your needs. All the way straight on through Broadway, and majoring in music, but you can also major in other things and be a lawyer and do shows at the Players or the Center for the Arts or Pit and Balcony or Vanishing Elephant and some of these other really great community performing entities. So that's the wonderful thing about musical theater. It's and theater and music in general is that you can do it sort of at any age. And in any capacity that you choose, ranging from performing in your shower through, the great stages on Broadway. What special education training would you advise? So specifically, if you're looking at pursuing music as a career, one of the number one mistakes that I see is, I think people practice what they're good at. Oh man, I sound really great on this number. I'm gonna sing it 1,000,000 times. And then this other number, I'm not so good on it. I don't really feel like doing that today. I'm going to leave it alone. So really truly analyzing yourself and figuring out what you're good at, and also figuring out what you're weak at, what your weaknesses are, and finding teachers, finding coaches, finding people that can help you address those. I see it a lot with dancing in particular, and I think there's a later question here about dance. The sooner you can get involved in dance, the better, because I send a lot of students to audition at some of the great conservatories in the country. And I'll say even the best dancers often come back from those auditions saying, man, I wish I was a little bit better prepared on the dance side. The other kind of general thing I would advise to, if you're thinking about majoring in musical theater at college, make sure you're working with a voice coach. There's so many wonderful, I teach a little bit, there's so many other wonderful teachers in the area. Make sure you have someone to advise you. And I would recommend doing that certainly by the fall of your junior year, if not sooner. It just makes it a little tricky if you start your senior year and you're working on cuts, and you're all of a sudden it's September, and then you start working with a teacher, and in November you have to have your pre-screens in, which are the recordings you submit before you start the audition process. So I think the sooner you can work with a teacher, the better. Should performers take acting lessons? Yes, that's another area too. Make sure you have good resources to find monologues, to find the right videos that can kind of, and resources that can help you prepare for those auditions. I would say for most folks, singing is their strong suit. Acting is kind of number two, but still kind of often overlooked. And then dance is like, well, I move a little bit, I can kind of wing it. So thinking about ways to work on those areas where you might not be as strong as a singer. And again, that's not always true. There's obviously some folks that are wonderful dancers and maybe not so strong in singing or acting. So what's my negative factor personally? I tend to worry. I'm someone that's always constantly thinking, and always kind of thinking of all the possible outcomes. And sometimes those outcomes aren't always great. So finding a way to reframe my mind and kind of let some concerns go, I think is a struggle. And if we're being honest, I think that it's kind of magnified by the current climate that we're in, both in terms of the pandemic and sort of many of the societal injustices, whatever the plural is, there that are going on right now. So I think that kind of makes the inner worrywart in me tick a little bit, and sometimes I have to kind of try to turn that voice down, try to quiet it, and remain calm, and remember all of the great things, all the wonderful things that are happening right now. What is my biggest plus factor personally? I think I'm a pretty innovative thinker. I think if you were to explain a situation to me in great detail, whether I know much about it, just the way that I'm wired, I can think of 5 possible solutions, ranging from wildly unpractical to maybe 3 or 4 that really kind of make a lot of sense. And I think that that's kind of served me well, both as a conductor, when I'm trying to figure out how to get the alto passage in measure 26 correct, and also as an arts administrator, how do we create programming that engages our audience differently, and another sort of bigger, broader, industry-wide questions. So I think those are all the questions that we have today. But man, thank you so much. I'm honored to be a part of this with so many really wonderful folks. I know it's a hard time, but we will figure this out. We will get through this together. I know all of our situations are a little bit different, but soon we'll be back together, and we'll be making music, and we'll be making great art, and we'll kind of continue to do so in this tough time, but we'll make it. We'll get there. Cool. Thank you.